Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Tea with V podcast. I am your host, Miss Vicky P, and on this 9th episode, I'm going to give you guys some advice, some encouragement, some pointers on how to become your best you. And I have 4 different things I'm gonna talk about, y'all. And I'm gonna go ahead and say this. It's not the most important and it's not the only and not the main things, but these are things that I've personally been implementing in my life, and 4 things that I feel like are very, very important for me right now that I feel like is an important part of becoming your best you. And those 4 things is: number 1, healing properly; number 2, loving yourself unconditionally; number 3, being okay with being alone sometimes; and number 4, not settling in life. Y'all know I talk a little fast and I be getting so freaking tongue tied. I be having to bring it back and slow it down. So from 5 months ago, y'all, I was not pressed, not worried about trying to be my best me. Of course, naturally you want to be good, in every area of your life, but really being intentional about waking up every day and doing whatever you can to grow, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, and just be a great version of yourself. That was not me. So these are things that I've really been just doing these past 5 months, to be completely transparent. Basically, let me tell you what had happened. Let me give you a little backstory. So basically 5 months ago, I moved to California. And one thing about moving somewhere, moving anywhere at any time of your life, you're having to start fresh, start over, whatever the case may be. For me, I literally had to start over. I did a full 360, physically did a full 360. Things that I had back in my other state, I didn't have now. My life completely turned around. And one thing that changed my mindset into wanting to become my best me was realizing if everything changed for me physically, I need to change internally, on the inside, because I knew that there were some things about me and some ways about me that just weren't healthy. And I was like, you know what? I'm not about to bring that out here with me. Apparently God moved me out here for a reason. And of course, anytime he allows anything to happen, is to excel you, to grow you, to mature you, whatever. So for me, I'm just you know what? I got to be my best me, not just for myself, but for people around me, people who who may look up to me for my future seeds, whatever. So these are the 4 things that I have been doing every day, really focusing on to really be the best Victoria I can be. And I feel like it's going to help some of y'all going to be triggered by some of these things. And if you triggered, that means you're not trying to be your best you, and you need to be your best you. So number 1, first one was healing properly. So something I've done in the past, in my 25 years of life, was when I'm having to heal from something, whether it was a heartbreak or death in my family or a relationship or whatever I had to deal with, I didn't like to be hurt. I didn't like to feel low. I didn't like to feel sad. So what I would do subconsciously and not very intentionally was try to find things to cover my pain temporarily, whether it was using people as a crutch or finding things finding peace in substance or finding pleasure in substance or material things. I would basically just try to find anything to get some temporary peace. And what I didn't realize was years later, and I'm still triggered by the same thing that I should have been healed from, or should have at least been on a journey to heal from, I was still pressed about. And I could be good, I can be happy, I can be whatever. And all of a sudden, the subject is brought up, or the person is brought up, or whatever the situation was is brought up. It comes to the surface again. And I'm just so hurt. I'm still hurt like I was when it first happened. And I started to realize, y'all, hold on, something got to give. Obviously, I ain't dealt with what I need to deal with. And that's an issue, y'all. We have to be better. And when it comes to healing properly, you have to be so intentional with healing and knowing that healing takes time. So you're not going to wake up the next day and be healed from whatever you got to heal from. You may not wake up in a month from now. It may take years, y'all. Some people, it literally takes years to heal from things. But as long as you're in the process or on a journey and being intentional about wanting to heal, that's honestly the best thing that you can do for yourself. And I was watching this podcast, y'all, one of my favorite podcasts right now. It's called the Know For Sure podcast with B. Simone and Megan Brooks. I think that's her name. And one thing they said that really stuck with me was that you're never really done healing. And I took that like this. When they said that, it made me think about it this way. Not to say you're never really done healing from a specific circumstance, but it just in general, like you're always, the way life happens, you're always healing from something. Like whether it's heartbreak, death, whatever, just the world isn't perfect. The world is full of drama. The world is full of loss. So we're always having to heal from something. And sometimes we get in these stages of life where we feel like, oh, it's one thing after another. Or I feel like the world is at my shoulders. Or I feel like I'm still trying to get over this or trying to get over that. And for me personally, one of the reasons why I have felt that way is because when it was time to heal from something, I wasn't healing properly. I was literally just masking my feelings with whatever temporary pleasure, temporary comfort, temporary happiness I could have gotten that would have helped me feel better in that moment. So then when something else came about in my life that I had to heal from, I was having to not only heal from that, but to heal from the other thing that I didn't heal from. And eventually, y'all, it gets like very like tiring and it gets overwhelming when you're moving like that. And for me, that's how it was for me personally. So when I heard that on that podcast, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so true. We're literally going to always have to heal from something. So why not heal from whatever you have to heal from in that moment? Why not just do it now instead of trying to push it off, instead of trying to wait, and then if years from now you just going through it and just don't know why you wake up every day moody, or why you wake up every day angry or sad or whatever. So that was just like a really important point that I really wanted to just say, because it was just so true for me. So like I said, you really have to be intentional with your healing process, and knowing and accepting the fact that you're not just going to wake up tomorrow and be healed, but to just take it day by day, and to know that there's going to be a point in life where you're going to be able to look back at whatever it is and be like, you know what? I'm not triggered by that no more. Like, I'm not sitting here upset, cussing other folks out, mad at everybody else because of this was brought up. That's how I want to be. I want to be like, you know what? That's beneath me. That's beneath me. I ain't worried about it no more, because you know what? I didn't heal the right way. Okay. So those are just some little steps I feel like you should take, or you can take, with healing properly. And if y'all know some more things, y'all let me know in the comments. Please let me know different ways or different things that you do to heal properly. Like, what are some like words of affirmations, or what are just some different things that you implement in your daily life to help you heal? Because look, like I said, healing is going to be, you will be healing all your life from something. So I'm trying to find different ways I can heal, whether it's from what I'm dealing with now or what I'm going to deal with in the future. Okay. We need to just uplift. Let's normalize uplifting and encouraging each other. Okay. So the second thing that I feel like you can do or implement to become your best you is self-love. Like I said, y'all, 25 years of life, and I didn't really know what it was like to implement self-love. I've heard of the word. I knew it. I heard it. I used to tell people, oh yeah, I'm implementing self-love. I'm on this journey of self-love. But let me tell you, I did not implement self-love until now. I didn't realize that I was not pouring into myself the way I needed to pour in myself. I didn't realize I wasn't loving myself the way I needed to love myself until I got into this situation now, to where I had no choice but to love on myself. Like, I've been in this place of solitude, like I've mentioned in a previous episode. I've been in this place of solitude for like 5 months, where I've been in the house, not around people, separated from my brother, separated from my friends. And I've literally had no choice but to just, the love that I'm so used to pouring into other people, I've literally had no choice but to pour that into myself. And it took me doing that to realize, like, dang, I really was not loving myself the way I needed to love myself, which means that I was not being my best me. I was just being a version of myself that really wasn't healthy. And I've realized that number one, you cannot really love someone else unconditionally until you love yourself unconditionally. Okay? Like, silent snaps, silent claps for that, because oh my gosh, y'all, I'm gonna repeat that for the folks in the back who ain't hear it. You cannot love someone else unconditionally until you love yourself unconditionally, which means all of your imperfections, all of your flaws, the things that you just absolutely cannot change about yourself, like, birth defects or whatever the case may be. How do you expect to love somebody else for them if you don't really love yourself? Literally waking up, and I guess you can say waking up every day, the cliche saying how people used to be like, wake up in the morning, tell yourself you're beautiful, da 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 da. I used to think that was just trash, gag. I'm not finna do that. Like, that's not gonna change nothing. But let me tell you, it does. It helps. It's basically you pouring into yourself any type of positive things you can, any type of positivity, any type of things that's going to really encourage you or like uplift you. That's like different forms of self-love. And it may sound hella cliche, y'all, but it's really nice. It's really so beneficial. And that's something that I've been doing personally to implement self-love, is really like looking physically looking at myself in the mirror and telling myself like, girl, you look good today. Y'all, I can literally be waking up in the morning looking like my little brother, but I'm going to tell myself I look good today. And I'm not perfect, so I do have my days where I just be like, girl, you're looking a little chunky today, or like, you not giving what you supposed to have gave. But I try to limit myself on doing that, because I realize like when you pour that negativity and speak that negativity on yourself, like that's not implementing self-love. That's like self-hate. When you tearing yourself down, that's the opposite of self-love. And that's what we got to stop doing. And that's something that I used to do for so many years. And it's very hard to like change your mindset when you've gotten so used and so conditioned to be a certain way. It's hard to step out of that. But if you want to be the best version of yourself, you have to be intentional. The same way you're intentional about healing properly, you have to be intentional about pouring into yourself. And some of the ways I have been doing that is realizing that I can't pour into other people from an empty cup. Something that a lot of us do, not just me. It's like, this is probably like a horrible example, but think about it like this. If you ever gotten like a stomach virus or food poisoning or whatever, and you've vomited so much that you're basically dry heaving, like nothing else is coming out. That's pretty much what it's like when you're pouring into somebody and you have nothing else to give. You're literally hurting yourself. You're hindering yourself. You're putting yourself at a disadvantage because you're just constantly wanting to pour with nothing else to pour. Like there's nothing there. There's nothing else inside you mentally, internally, physically, spiritually that you can pour into somebody else. So you're literally just dry heaving. And that's honestly overwhelming, and that's tiring, and it takes so much energy. So for me, I've like, you know what? I'm trying to do things to constantly pour into myself, like journaling and spending time with God and giving myself little self-care days, just literally doing whatever I can to make sure that my cup is overflowing. So when I pour into other people, it's like effortless. You get what I'm saying? It's just so effortless to where you're just like, I don't feel overwhelmed. I don't feel tired. I'm just like, okay, I poured into them. It's so effort because you're constantly pouring into yourself. So that's something that I've been doing. Another thing was being intentional with who you allow in your circle and who you allow in your space. Not being a freaking people pleaser. Y'all, look, I keep going back to me because like I said, I can only give y'all advice or encouragement on stuff that I've like personally dealt with. But being a people pleaser is something I've always like struggled with. Just always wanted to make sure everybody was happy and everybody was good, to where I'm putting myself like I'm disadvantaging myself, and I'm not good trying to make sure somebody else is good, or allowing people in my space because they like me even though I don't like them, you know? And that's something that we got to stop doing as well. Be intentional with who you allow in your space, because number one, everybody doesn't mean you good, and not everybody has positive vibes. So you allowing just everybody in your space, that's not implementing self-love. That's not you trying to be your best you. That's just you tolerating anything. And look, y'all, it's 2022. We not getting no younger, okay? We're not getting no younger. And we have to be so intentional with who we allow in our atmospheres, because a lot of these folks out here, honey, they is negative. They are gossipers, they drama filled. And I'm just like, you know what? I ain't trying to be around that. Okay. I am not trying to be around that. So that's why I'm just very, very, very particular now with who I'm just letting in my circle. And you have to do that as well to protect your peace, because that's another thing of being in this time of solitude. Protecting my peace is just so important right now. Like, I don't want that to be disrupted for anything or anybody. So I'm like, you know what? If I don't want to deal with it, I'm not going to deal with it. I'm not going to I'm not going to say yes to it just to make you happy. I'm literally going to do what's best for me. And that's just going to be that. And that is probably one of the main things that you can do to pour self-love, to implement self-love, is making sure that you straight yourself. And the last thing, but not least, because there's so many other things, but making sure that your mental health is in check. And that just kind of goes into making sure you're straight before making sure somebody else is straight, or loving yourself unconditionally before you love somebody else unconditionally. But mental health is so important, y'all. And nowadays it's talked about a lot more than it was, for me growing up and back in the day. But a lot of people struggle with mental health based off things that we go through. And then while we're struggling, we don't talk about our mental health. We don't talk about our problems, but we're constantly wanting to pour and help somebody else. That's not okay. Like, that is absolutely not okay. Please make sure that you straight yourself. You're not going to always be perfect. You're not going to always have like the best of days and you happy go lucky. But at least make sure that you're mentally stable before wanting to check in or look after or would motivate or encourage somebody else. Because honestly, like, what's the point? If you're pouring into other people and nobody's pouring into you, like, if the energy is not reciprocated, honey, it ain't worth it. If the energy is not reciprocated, it's not worth it. Whether it's people pouring to you, things pouring to you, like whatever the case may be, make sure you straight first. That is so important. And like I said about the healing part, if y'all got some tips on what do you do to pour into yourself? Like, what do you do daily or weekly or whatever to implement self-love in your life? Please let me know. Because if it's something that I can do, honey, look, I'm on this journey of growth. Like, I'm here for it. My heart, my mind, my soul, my spirit is open to accept any good thing that I can to make sure that I'm straight. Okay. So on to the third thing, y'all, being alone. Oh my gosh. And y'all know this podcast is all about transparency. So I'm going to be 100% transparent with y'all right now. I never liked being alone, like ever. I had separation anxiety to the max. I didn't even realize that it was separation anxiety. I didn't know what it was. I just felt like, oh, it's normal that I always want to be around people. I just like people. When in reality, I don't like people that much, y'all. I just was so scared. I don't know why. I was just so scared with being by myself. And I know for a fact I'm not the only one, because I've had this conversation with several people, like several of my friends and stuff, and just people in general, of like really like not like me, y'all. I didn't want to go to the store by myself. I didn't want to go to a gas station by myself. I didn't want to do nothing by myself, whether it was having somebody with me physically, having somebody on the phone. Like, I just never wanted to do anything by myself because I just didn't like the feeling of being alone. I didn't like that feeling of being lonely. But in these past 5 months, like, y'all, I've been learning so much about myself. But I realized, like, it's so peaceful when you by yourself. You not in no drama. You not in no mess. You not sitting there having to accommodate your feelings, because of nobody else's. You're not sitting here trying to, like, deal with anybody else's bad vibes. Like, it's so peaceful, y'all, being by yourself. And it took me all these years to really be okay with that, because I was never forced, or I was never placed in a space where I had to be by myself until now. And I'm just like, y'all, when I tell y'all it's the growth for me, because all of these things that I'm talking about are 5 months ago, like, I had no clue about. Absolutely no clue, was not implementing, didn't think it was really a problem, was not self-evaluating myself to even realize that, like, oh, Victoria, you got some ways about you that aren't healthy. But now I see it, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm trying to be Gucci. I'm trying to be great. And so being alone was like one of those things that I had to really like come in terms with, that is just a part of life. And I just had to be okay with it. And in this time of being by myself, I was able to implement the self-love. I was really able to realize like, dang, I wasn't pouring into myself. And I learned how to not be so dependent on like wanting to have somebody around me all the time, something that I struggle with so much. And like I said, I just really gained being in this place of peace that I started to really like protect and cherish. And now I'm just like, look, if it's gonna disrupt my peace, I don't want to deal with it. Like, I've seen like different posts on Facebook where people be like, "Oh, I've been by myself for so long that I'm scared to be with other people, or I don't want to be with other people." I ain't trying to get like that now. I ain't trying to be old 50, 60, 70 with a bunch of cats. Look, I want to, be around people again, but just being in this space of being okay with being by myself is something I feel like I had to deal with. So when I got back in the world, I was not dependent on people like I was at one point. And so that was another important thing. And the last thing, which is, I don't want to say the most important, but is a big, big, big thing, is not settling. Whether that's in life, in jobs, in relationships, in situations, in decisions, whatever. Y'all, we settle in life with like so much stuff. Unintentionally, like we don't even think that we settle. If your friend's asking you to go somewhere and you're like, I really don't want to go. Like, I'm tired. I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. But you go anyways, you're settling. If you're in a relationship and you're just like, I see all these red flags, but I'm going to stay because I'm comfortable, you're settling. Honey, you can settle with the food that you eat. Like, when I tell you, it's so many different ways you can settle. It doesn't have to be drastic things, but we just have to stop settling in general. Because honestly, that's not you being your best you. And for me, one of my main focuses of wanting to be my best me and like not settling is when I start to bring kids into the world, I know that generational curses are a thing. Characteristics being passed on to your kids from you is a thing. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be grown having kids and watching my kids have the same toxic traits that I had because I didn't want to be my best me, or I didn't try to be a better me. And settling was one of those things. I'm like, I don't want to sit here and watch my kids settle in life, in relationships, in jobs, and staying. Y'all, I stayed in a job for 3 years, settling because I didn't want to step outside my comfort zone into something new. I didn't want to step outside my comfort zone and start over in something. So I settled. And it was so toxic and traumatizing. So let's normalize like really just not settling in life. If it just don't sit right in your spirit, don't do it. Let it go. Push it. Let's stop falling in love with potential people, potential jobs, potential things. If it ain't good now, if it ain't good right now, don't settle. Do not settle. I'm telling y'all, like, I wish, I'm not upset at myself, but I wish years ago I would have like been able to do these things or been able to come to this realization of how much I was settling on, but it's okay. Better late than never. Whether you older or younger, it doesn't matter. As long as you realize it, whatever point in life, maybe this video is going to help you. Maybe this video is going to be like, or this episode is going to help you realize that you were settling in so much. So you're welcome. You're welcome. Okay. But yeah, so yeah, we have to not settling. We have to stop settling. So out of all of those things, I don't know what you feel like is the most important thing. And like I said, if you're triggered by any of these things, that means that you got to do better. Let's be better together. Let's encourage each other. Let's motivate each other, because we're not getting no younger and the world is getting crazier. And like I said, we bringing seasons to this world. Like, it's people looking up to us. It's people being inspired and encouraged by us. So why not be the best version of yourself? Why not wake up and majority of your days you feel good? You move different. You feel different. Like, I can honestly say I'm not perfect. Life is not perfect. Of course, you still go through normal things. But I'm so happy being intentional with wanting to grow and mature in every area that I can in my life. And I feel like you need to be doing the same thing. So whether it's these 4 things that I talked about or whatever other way you can grow and be your best you, please do it. Like, please push forward. Please realize that you are worth it. Please realize that you don't have to settle for nobody, that you can be okay with being by yourself in the time being, that self-love is so important and so detrimental to your health, and that healing properly is the right way to go. So that is it, y'all. That's my 4 little things I had to tell y'all. And I hope that it can be of encouragement to somebody. Like I said, if you was triggered, I said that about 5 times, but if you was triggered, that's a good thing. It's okay to be triggered sometimes when it's for your health. But that's all I have for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. And I'm so happy that y'all watching me instead of just hearing me. I just feel like it's more personable, okay? I love it. So I will check y'all out next week. Bye, family.